Hi, I'm Mary Elizabeth Mitchell, and I participated this last winter with Team-More-Than-SCORM in the xAPI cohort. Our team was a band of 6, Kay Bell, Toya Green, and Laura Bible, along with myself, are from Western Governors University, and then we were joined by Christina Rogers and Deb McCaffrey. So during the cohort, our team, the biggest question that we had was how can we use the new Storyline xAPI and LRS features to improve learner data collection if we have an LMS that only supports SCORM. And so our goals were to create xAPI to communicate learner engagement with a non-LMS item, such as an article linked in a course. We also wanted to create xAPI within Storyline to communicate data about learner engagement with a simulation, so like a software demo, software simulation with different phases. We also wanted to create xAPI to gather item level data from assessment questions in Storyline. So looking at publishing courses with xAPI statements in Storyline 360. So there's a new little slash next to LMS in Storyline that allows you to add your LRS information to connect your course, your content, to your LRS. And it's just in the same place that you publish. And then when you go to your reporting and tracking, you'll want to select xAPI first and turn on report to an external LRS. And then in the reporting and tracking, you've got this additional tab here that is the LRS information. And so you'll want to enter your LRS endpoint, key, and secret, and then that will connect your content to your LRS when you publish as xAPI. It allows you to either choose a static mailbox as your actor. You can also choose a static account, which just gives you, I think it just says my example every time someone completes the course, so you don't have a unique actor. Or you can choose random account, and that allows you to have a unique identifier for each attempt. It doesn't sync with IP address or anything like that, so if the same user attempts the course multiple times, it'll show that as separate attempts. But it will allow you to see unique separate attempts. There is also a feature where you can have it grab the actor from the URL, the launch URL. We haven't been able to get that to work with any LMS that we are using, but in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. And then you just export it, publish it as a zip file, and then you can upload it wherever you need to. So the default xAPI that's included just by publishing the content as xAPI, so regular content in Storyline that you didn't make any changes to, other than adding your LRS information and publishing it as xAPI. That gets you some basic xAPI statements that Storyline automatically creates without you adding any kind of custom statements, even using the statement builder. So it gives you things like the learner experienced a site, the learner left a slide, the learner answered a quiz question with this answer, pass, fail, and their score once they complete a quiz. In the simulation that we tested, the default xAPI also includes hotspot interactions. So you can see here there are a couple. My example correctly answered hotspot with response rectangular hotspot 1 with score of 10. So not particularly helpful there. So we really started looking at naming conventions. So you can get a lot of really great data out of Storyline just by publishing as xAPI. However, you need to be really careful about your naming conventions. As we looked at that data that we were getting, we discovered that the default naming really didn't give us any useful data when we were referring back to it, unless you actually referred back to the course to look at, okay, they were on this slide, and hotspot rectangle 1 was, corresponds to this particular space. So a lot more digging than is necessary. We did discover for quiz questions, it pulls the stem automatically, so the prompt for the question. But the answer and the distractors, without being labeled, were just reported as hotspot, or as you saw, rectangular hotspot 1. The simulation default slide names are also not very helpful, as typically those are just called hotspot. So you have to go back and label your slides as well as your objects that are in your questions. So your hotspots, you're going to want to label them what they actually are. So this is an example of that. So this would be the default if you just created this map here with a question and created some hotspots to indicate that they had clicked on different states. But the default, it'll just say freeform hotspot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So definitely gives you data, but not particularly discernible data. It's pretty opaque without meaningful naming. And so once we went in, and these were manually renamed with the specific states that people would be choosing, so we could actually see in our xAPI statements what someone had chosen. All right, so we mentioned that we wanted to use xAPI in a non-compliant platform. At WGU, our LMS that we're using is Bridge LMS, and that LMS does not accept xAPI packages yet. And so we really wanted to look at what that might look like. So we tested our course just to see in SCORM Cloud. We wanted to see what came out of it if we published it as SCORM, but still had the xAPI or the LRS connection turned on. And this is what we got in SCORM Cloud. So SCORM Cloud itself is pretty good. This is what we got in Bridge. It's a sad little lonely chair. We published it as SCORM in Bridge and got absolutely nothing in Watershed, which was the LRS that we connected. So we actually talked to Bridge, and they had a really interesting idea as a workaround. So they have a media player within Bridge called Instilled, and Instilled is kind of it's a somewhat nominally featured LMS in and of its own right, but Bridge uses it as its media delivery system. And so they said that actually they were launching a feature where you could upload an xAPI package within the media player. And so that's what we did. So we published from Storyline as xAPI, and we connected it to Watershed. So we found some good things and some bad things there. Some of the pros that we found are that it allows you to have a workaround to publish xAPI content in Bridge, which is a non-xAPI platform. So Instilled, which is that media player, they actually gather data automatically into Watershed. Bridge and Watershed are owned by the same parent company. And so Instilled was actually already sending data to Watershed. So that's there. We're kind of waiting to get that data back to see what it looks like and how hard it's going to be to get it from them if we can set up something with Databricks. But so we're still kind of investigating that. But we were able to send xAPI data to our Watershed instance directly. So just, setting it up in the Storyline file, we were able to just send that directly to Watershed and get pretty good data. And so the negatives about that are that it doesn't act like a course in the LMS. It acts like a video. So a learner can complete the course just by clicking the completed button beneath it in Bridge, because it's using the Bridge player and the Bridge wrapper. And the completion data is not gathered in the LMS or displayed to the learner in the LMS. So, completion, like amount completed, scores, pass, fail, that none of that is reported to the LMS. You'd have to create some kind of workaround there. Also, we found that in the storyline player within the media player, the submit and the exit buttons didn't work. So not from the player. We had to actually put a manual button in the course to submit our assessment, because we have an assessment where we allow people to navigate through it and then they submit at the end. And then the exit button, we just couldn't get that to work at all, using the triggers that are built into Storyline. So you might have to write some custom JavaScript to make that work. So interesting, but maybe not super practical for most applications. So we also wanted to see what we could do using the custom xAPI statement builder in Storyline. As I said, the default xAPI from Storyline gives you a limited number of types of data, really pretty rudimentary information. One thing that we wanted to know was whether or not learners had used the review button to review their answers after they did not pass the assessment. Let's see, this is just a picture of the xAPI builder. It looks just like the regular trigger window, except you have your xAPI statement components to be able to put together to build. So this is what our review button looks like, just kind of a classic setup on the results slide in Storyline. And, we have our review information set up on each of our slides so that when they go back, they'll see some feedback about their answers. And so we created an xAPI statement using the statement builder in Storyline. So we wanted to know if the learner clicked on that review button. We wanted it to tell us that the learner interacted with review button 1. So that's how we set up our statement. And it came back to us beautifully. This is this random blah, 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 blah numbers here is what the random actor looks like when you set it that way in Storyline. So our learner interacted with review and then the time. So that is helpful. So things that we would like to do as next steps. Looking at why some of the custom xAPI statements created in Storyline are not sending, while the default statements are sending. Some of the statements we created weren't working for reasons that we haven't figured out yet. And then doing some more testing with custom xAPI statements in simulations and scenarios where that default information from Storyline is not going to get you everything that you need to know how your learner is interacting with your course. Also, we'd like to test different labeling conventions and see on the other side what that data looks like and if it answers the questions that we have. And then also, we would like to do some further work with Bridge LMS and LTG, which is the parent company of Bridge and Watershed, to see if we can get either SCORM or an xAPI package with a SCORM wrapper to work so that we get that full data within the LMS and data back to the learner about their performance. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.